So I put that pinion flange on there, or pinion flange nut rather. I've got a little Loctite. Looks like it didn't smear in there, which I do want it to be on those threads, so. I'm gonna need to put my hubs on the end, then put the axles back in, lock the axles down, and then be able to torque it. Well, I had two brand new wheel seals. And I'll show you what they look like eventually. My workbench is getting a little crowded. And this one is the Timken bearing, that number right there. And this one is the Ford VRS 193 or 2CZ blah 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 blah. Now these should be the same seal. Should have a good, sealant on the outside. Everything should be the same, but they are not the same. The problem that I have is the inner seal on this one tends to just slip on the hub instead of inside the seal. And it's kind of hard to explain because this one is destroyed, the old seal, but this is the inner section of this bearing. So if you look, that little metal ring right there, the rubber inside is this guy, but from a Ford. You can tell it's a Ford because it has those ridges on it, just like that one. That one has those straight edges on it, and what happens is this rubber, inside rubber part slides on to the axle shaft itself, and this is stationary. And then the other side, this side actually spins on this. Now, it's a very small difference, but looking at the two, I don't like the Timken setup, and I've had problems with the Timken setup. So I went to the Ford dealer, bought two Ford seals rather, and I'm going to install this guy. Now, I've already actually installed the other one in that hub, but halfway through installing that one, I just decided, nah, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to pop that seal back out, put a Ford seal back in it, because I like the way it looks better, and then put that hub on this side, and then this side, and then the axle's in. So this is the other side of the axle, and if you look, there's a steel collar. Whenever you pull the hub off, it'll pull the steel collar off each time. If you take a chisel and you it's hard to explain the amount of pressure, but if you just tap it, that side and then the other side, it'll usually loosen it up enough to where you can just pry it off with your favorite pry bar or punch or snap-on screwdriver. And if you did it right, you wouldn't have marked up the axle at all. So make sure that area is pretty clean. And if you did nick the area on the side, it's not that big of a deal, because remember that collar that slides on here doesn't actually move, so it's not going to grind or anything. If you nicked it, just take some RTV, put it on there, let it dry, and then install your seal. Hub and install it. So there is a spec on this. I don't remember what it is. It's 70 or 80 foot-pounds. You tighten it down and back it off. Spin your hub when you do it. Then tighten it till it's snug, or like 15 foot-pounds or something like that. You'll feel it stop. about there. And back out about 6 clicks. All right, got my hubs put on, torque down, seals in, carrier pinion in. Now what I'm going to do is take our friction modifier, dump it straight into the top right there, put a couple more quarts of fluid. It's supposed to hold 4 quarts. So I'm going to put 3 quarts plus that, and then once it's in the truck, I'll fill it up. That's just easier to do it right now. Once I get that stuff in, I'm going to put that pan on with some RTV silicone around the edge, put my rotors back on, my caliper brackets, calipers, and everything. So when I pour this in, I'm going to pour it right on top of her. It's not really going to make that big of a difference, but hopefully it doesn't drain out the bottom, because if it drains at the bottom, it means I really didn't have it sealed up.
Just to tell you that you are probably going to get a call from the gate for his friend.
Okay. Well, I got it all together.
Nice. Wow, look how clean those parts are, you know. They haven't cleaned them lately, so.
I had to re-clean them this morning, so yeah, they came out pretty good. Just kidding.
That smell is kind of bad, honestly.
You got that gear smell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gear oil sucks because once you get it on, you're like, it does not come back off. I'm gonna finish putting this together. I'm just gonna drive my truck broke and hopefully it makes it.
Wait, you're not putting this back on your truck?
Baby. Not tonight. I ain't got no time. It'll be 4 or 5 hours to install this.
Where are
thing.
your tires gonna go?
Tires are on the truck, babe.
But don't the tires go on this?
Well, yeah. Once I swap it out.
Oh, okay.
I think.
You're thinking the same as me,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. No, we were thinking
Not really.
that you didn't have one on your truck at all.
Oh. Yeah.
So we were confused.
Yeah, no, it's a new one. Yeah. It's a different one.
No, I mean, it's making a lot of noise and clacking, but if I drive slow, I think it'll be fine. Even if it's not, I mean, the worst that's going to happen is I'll pull over to the side and call AAA, or I can literally just shift it in 4-wheel drive and... Uh-oh! There goes the axle. That's all she wrote, fellas. Now you're a truck man. Drive shaft. Well, when I unloaded the axle, I had 4-wheel drive, and you can't really tell from the video, but my freaking front yard and driveway sits like this, so I'm afraid to get the truck back down in here and then won't get back out. So I gotta move this axle from here over there without a dolly or without any help. It should be a piece of cake. I'm sure some of y'all are wondering why I even bother with that chain and didn't just reach down and pick it up. I've had back surgery before. Had a pretty bad herniated disc when I was about 26, 27 from an accident. And I had a artificial disc replacement surgery, so I've got a fake disc in L5S1. Putting that chain on it helps me stand straight up and be able to pick it up instead of bending way over like that, which is pretty hard on that back. Not so worried about the artificial disc as I am the L4, L5, and L3, L4, L2, L3, the little daisy chain above that one. But to the truck,
Now I need to tilt it all the way up on its end, stick it in a truck, and hopefully be able to lift it up and shove her on in. Well, had the service truck towed. It's no longer there. Had it towed to a buddy of mine's shop in Fort Worth. There's a little spot right over here. It's open and it's a little flat area. I was gonna take the truck over there, but loading and unloading that axle is a pain in the butt, and I really need an engine hoist, which I have an engine hoist, but I don't have a truck to go get it. So it's just like, kill two birds with one stone. So I had it towed to my buddy's shop. And yes, I did make it home from the other night. You guys watched the live stream. It did not make it all the way home. I had to take the rear drive shaft off, put it in 4-wheel drive, and use the front axle as a 2-wheel drive, and made it home. But right now, I got two motorcycles to choose from. I got the KLR and the Triumph. I think I'm going to put my Moskomoto bag, the panniers on the back on the Triumph, take the Triumph, because that windscreen or that wind jammer that's right there makes a lot of difference, and it's like 24 degrees outside. So I'm going to swap it out and then get on the road. All right, we're ready to go. Let's see if she starts. Well, I made it. I almost did make it. Rear tire's flat. Couldn't find anybody to patch it up for me or replace it. So I just rode on it for like 10 miles. But I went real slow, so it was fine. I'm gonna get the service truck backed in here, find the lift. There it is, the cherry picker over there. Pull the rear axle out, get it set down on the ground on a jack, and then get another jack underneath the truck, and then put my jack stands underneath the frame and get the frame supported, and then unbolt the rear end and all that jazz. Now all I gotta do is jack her up. Oh, just did something I did not believe. So that jack, it's a snap-on 3-ton jack, and it will not lift the service truck. Now, my Harbor Freight 3-ton jack will lift the service truck all day, and you can tell when you're lifting it, you're putting a lot of force into it. It's probably not rated for that. I'd imagine the relief valve on the snap-on is probably a lot more accurate than the Harbor Freight one, but holy hell, the Harbor Freight one lit the truck. So I got to bust out the 20-ton hydraulic jack, use some air, which is easier anyway. Well, got the wheels and tires off. Ended up having to put a battery charge on my VMAX. I keep leaving that key on, and then it keeps draining the battery dead. So I'm not at this point yet, but I need to loosen these U-bolts. And theoretically, you should be using new U-bolts every time, but I don't have any on hand. So make sure you clean up all the rust off the top. And then we're going to spray them down with some knocker loose. All 4 of them, or all 8 of them rather. And then that way they'll be soaking and hopefully be loose by the time we get to it. Now the next step I'm going to do, I'm going to take loose that center brake line that's on there. I'm not actually going to take these loose because, as you can tell, these actually broke off a long time ago. That's one of the reasons I took the metal line off the other side. So I'm not going to worry about messing these up, dropping it, but we're going to take off that center line, which goes right here up to there. Then I'm going to take off these park brake cables and get them out of the way. Park brake cables are pretty easy, but in order to get them off, I don't think we're going to be able just to loosen those up. We might be. Let's try it and find out. So we're going to take this line loose right there. It's a 7/16 or 11 millimeter, and you want to use a flare nut wrench because those things can be pretty tight. You'll probably just round it off if you don't use a flare nut wrench. We'll take it off. It's going to drain a little bit of brake fluid out, and then there's a clip
right there, we got to pull that clip off, and then that line will just pull off. Well, I had to switch which resolution I was using. I was running out of memory. So now I'm going to go ahead and take these nuts off for the brackets that hold the sway bar to the rear axle. Should be like a 14 millimeter nut. Again, we're going to spray some knocker loose on those threads so they come off nice and easy. Pull those off. That means these brackets will come loose and those will come loose. That'll get the sway bar. It'll get it loose, and then once it's loose, I'll pick it up and be able to like attach it or just not attach it at all and let it flop around and let it be in the way. After that, I'm going to pull these bottom bolts off the shocks. Now, the only thing keeping the entire axle from dropping out of the truck right now is the shock. So we're going to have to put the jack underneath the axle, lift the axle up a little bit to take some weight off of it, then take these bolts off, and then they should pull off. A lot of times your shocks are what's keeping your suspension from going too far, and these are Bilsteins, believe it or not. They've been on there for a while, probably about I don't know, you think I should replace them? The bushings on the outside look a little dry rotted, but they've been on here for 180,000 miles. One of the best upgrades I've ever done to this service truck. So anyway, we'll take those loose, and then once that's loose, we'll take this guy loose right here. We've got our we need to take that bolt loose right here that's holding that park brake cable to the rear axle, and then we'll be able to do those U-bolts and get this thing out of the way. Now, I'm not doing a long length video about every step of the process because my phone is actually running out of memory and my phone is about to die and I have to keep plugging it in, and it's a pain in the butt. So I hope you guys can bear with me, but I'll get that done and then we'll be dropping an axle out, hopefully. Well, here we go. Oh, the knees cracked and the concrete's cold. We're gonna let out the axle and see what happens. Twisty, twisty. We're gonna do it slow. Oh yeah. Look at that. There it goes. There it goes, people. That axle's been in there for almost 400,000 miles and it's coming out now. Shouldn't be anything connected to it. Yeah. Oh, look at that. It's perfectly balanced on the jack. Woo! Now I just need to slide that son of a bitch out. Slide that one in. And if I wouldn't be screwing around making videos, probably take about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. The U-bolts on the other side, they did one of them did cause problems. So I'm gonna have to run a tap on it, or a die rather, and then clean it up. But that's why you're supposed to replace the U-bolts every time. But you know, when you're redneck and it's your own piece of wonderful service truck, then it is what it is. Now I'm actually planning on replacing the service truck. Not replacing it. I want to add another service truck to my little fleet here and expand, but it's not in the budget right now. So I'm going to have to keep using this one for now. Unless one of you guys actually has a spare service truck with a crane, you just don't need it, then I'll gladly accept it. It'll go to a good home. It'll haul my beer from to and from, and whenever I'm using the crane, I will think of you. Anyway, let's get the axle pulled out of here. Well, I have spent hours trying to get this axle lined up, and I ended up using the port power to spread the leaf springs. And while I was tightening down the U-bolts, the driver's side leaf spring, I heard a snap, and then everything moved just a little bit. So I think what happened is the tie bolt on the driver's side has snapped, but I'm not sure. Only thing I can think of is maybe a cabin chassis Ford F-350 or 2003 Ford F-350. Maybe the axle perches are just a little bit different. Maybe, like, I measured them. They should be 42.5 perch to perch. But maybe I didn't measure them accurately enough. I don't know. Let me show you. So it's dark. You have to excuse the terrible lighting. But if you look, the bottom leaf spring is out on both sides, especially the rears. Oh my goodness. Well, I got a tip for you guys. If you actually have a Ford cabin chassis truck, and I don't know if this holds true for all cabin chassis trucks, but at least this cabin chassis truck, axles are actually different. Believe it or not. Oh, and the security system just went off. I can hear the compressor back on. I flipped some of the breakers off to off and on. And apparently the security system is on one of them. But anyway, it's really late. It's like 9:30 at night. I've been working all day. I'm tired. So anyway, that is the axle out of the service truck. That is the axle that I bought. Only difference in the two is the spring perches are actually different. How do you know they're different? I'm going to show you. So we're going to take an old tape measure. Now that should be how it's in the truck, right? That drive shaft, I'm pretty sure bolts to that thing. Let's check this driver's side. We got right at 12 inches, right? The axle flange to here. Okay. We're going to go over here. We're going to check this one. Hey, look at that. That is not 12 inches. I'm not even going to bother measuring that side. So now I have to make a decision. I can cut the spring perches off this one and re-weld it on and be done with it. Or I could take the guts out of this one and then put it in that one. And then put that one back on. But if I do that, I'm going to have to put new hub seals in it, and I don't have new hubs. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do. Cutting these perches off, when I cut them off, it's going to cause a problem because I'm going to remove material from the perch itself, put it on. I have to make sure the measurements are pretty close, and then I have to make sure the angle's pretty close, which I can do, not a problem. Oh my gosh, I need some Red Bulls or some meth or something. I'm tired. So anyway, I got my axle set up. Fortunately, the spring perches are only half-ass welded right here, and it's not a very good weld. So what I did is I put two angle finders on here. That's at 90, and I put that one on there just as a reference. In case something happens, in case a jack stand falls or anything. But I'm only going to do one at a time, so all I have to do is put one angle finder on the other perch, keep it at 90 or keep it level. If you don't have an angle finder, all you have to do is put a level on it. And I'm going to cut that one off, move it in, weld it, and do the same for the other side, because I got nothing better to do on a Friday night.